Are we wearing white shirts? Which is another message, of course, Senator, that has been in this, which is in this book. As Hayden was saying, I worked for Prime Minister Chrétien for a couple of years, and you will see at the beginning of this book, or on the cover of this book, the endorsement of former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien. As we all know, had a love affair with the Aboriginal people, a love affair with the North, and of course got to meet Nick over all of these years. And he happily endorsed the book, Senator. Tonight we're competing with a debate in Quebec, but we got the best room right here because let's hope that in this debate tonight that they do pay attention to Aboriginal affairs and they do pay attention to minority rights. When I was appointed to the Senate by Mr. Chrétien 12 years ago, which by the way wasn't part of any strategic plan, Senator, I felt that when I looked at some good senators that were already there, like Senator Sibbeston, that we are an institution that fights each and every day for minority rights, and that's why I took up the role, as Hayden was saying, dealing with those with intellectual disabilities and in this country, including autism. And on the Aboriginal aspect of this, and this is not meant to be a political statement, the federal government has an incredible responsibility, which I don't think it's lived up to Aboriginal youth on fetal alcohol syndrome, on autism, and all kinds of other issues that deal with the youth. But we're here to talk about you, and we're here to talk about the book. When the title of the book is "You Will Wear a White Shirt," and it comes from your mom. And you and I have talked in the Senate about your mom, I think passed away
just this winter.
Just this winter.
Yeah. She was 94 years old.
Right. Yeah. And we had a little hug in the Senate, and I was expressing my condolences because my mom passed away not that long ago in '97. And what did she mean by that when she will wear a white shirt? Let's get that one out right now. I'm sure most of the people in the room know that, but I don't think a lot of Canadians know that.
Okay. My mother, when I was very young, told me that someday I would wear a white shirt. And of course, as a child, you don't understand that because the environment which I was in was very Dene, and I didn't have a father, but I had uncles and a grandfather that were hunters and trappers. And so I think she had it in mind for me that I should not have to live that life. It was a very hard, good life, but very hard and demanding. And so she thought I would have an easier job, an easier life if I was like the teacher or the government person in town who wore a white shirt. And I often say I'm thankful she didn't say white collar, because we had priests and brothers that were all around, and so that would have been very hard for me to accomplish. But wearing a white shirt was more possible. And throughout my life, when I went to school, tough times, it wasn't easy, but I persevered, and a few times that I failed, and I always remembered my mother telling me, someday you're going to wear white shirts. So I continued in school and went all the way to grade 12. In my town in Fort Simpson, nobody had ever gone beyond grade 9. And so grade 10 was a big number. And then I went on to university, failed, flunked out a few times, but I persevered, and eventually, when I met my wife, I must give credit to my wife because she was a good influence on me. I was a haywire. Like, you know, if you don't know what that means, you drank and chased girls and stuff like that, and were unruly sometimes. But after I met my wife, I settled down, and she has been a help to me throughout my life. So I give her credit. And we've been married for 47 years. So stand up, Karen. Woo!
we've got a good thing going here. I've been married 47 years as well. And you and Hayden have been together for 30 years. And, I wonder if you could just paint a picture for us. So can you take us back? Just close our eyes for a second and take us back, and you're a 5-year-old. What was that picture like? You know, I grew up in a comfortable United Church manse in northern New Brunswick. My father was a United Church minister, and he was a gentleman who cared very much about the Mi'kmaq, and we were comfortable. Can you paint us a picture of what it was like for yourself?
Yeah, when I was young, I grew up very well. We were poor, but I really had the best of everything in the sense of good clothing, warm clothing, and I used to often go to visit rabbit snares with my grandmother. And so I didn't have a father, but I had uncles and grandfathers around, and they helped provide us with food. So we never went hungry and had a great upbringing. But when I was 5.5 years old, my mother got TB. So she had to go away to Edmonton from the north. Edmonton, where there was a TB hospital, Charles Council Hospital. So she put me on the mission boat, the boat that took all the children to the residential school up the river, about 250 miles in Fort Providence. And I remember very well, I didn't even cry when my mother put me on the boat. I thought, wow, we're going to go for a boat ride, you know? And as a child, that's what I thought. But the next morning, when I realized where I was, my mother and grandmother were gone, I realized that I was not with my mother, and I began crying. And there were 2 sisters that were in charge of us, and actually a bigger boy came over to hug me and comfort me. And so that was the start of 6 years in residential school in the hands of the Grey Nuns. And I have to say, those were the most difficult, traumatic years of my life. Never got any love or affection. It was like a discipline type of police jail type of setting. And I remember when we got to Providence, if you can imagine me with a little bag that my mother had prepared for me. I arrived there with my clothes. When you get to Providence, you're marched up the hill, up to the convent. And there, what happened is I got stripped, all your clothes off, and you were given, firstly, a bunch of gut grease on your hair to get rid of the lice. It didn't have any lice, but everybody was treated the same. And then we got into a tub to wash, and then we're given a haircut. So that was the process. Your clothes taken away, washed up, hair, and then you're provided with coveralls. That was the wear that we had as children. Coveralls, denim underwear, and cowhide shoes and underwear underneath that. So that was a real change, and that would be the tone of life in residential school for the next six years. Eventually took our little bag and put it up in the cupboard and never saw it until the following summer when we were going home. So those years were very difficult. I remember being sad, missing my mother and grandmother, and wishing just that I were home by my mother or grandmother. And so those are very tough years, a lot of discipline, a lot of going to Mass every morning and work, and then going to